And so, for our next wonderful presentation, we're going to have Megan Murphy, sorry, okay. And Megan Murphy has a Bachelor of Science and CAP. What is that?
Certified Ayurvedic Practitioner.
Okay, and Certified Ayurvedic Practitioner, is a writer, editor, and National Ayurvedic Medical Association Certified Ayurvedic Practitioner. She has been practicing holistic medicine since 2012 with a unique approach that integrates current evidence-based science with ancient Ayurvedic wisdom. Megan is passionate about supporting women who are planning to conceive by empowering them to balance their hormones, enhance their fertility, and optimize the health of the future baby-to-be. Megan also recently collaborated to write a book, Enhancing Beauty, on Ayurvedic strategies for women to cultivate enduring self-love and care. Presently, Megan is studying at the University of Western States for her Master's of Science in Human Nutrition and Functional Medicine. Megan, since we had dinner beforehand, as the moderator, that's a little perk I get. So anyway, I also spoke with Megan and Philomena, and Megan is also Philomena's assistant in the office, correct? So anyway, let's give a warm welcome to Megan Murphy.
Thank you so much for having me and for being here this late at night on a weekday. So I will make this short and sweet and hopefully interesting for you guys. So I am a certified Ayurvedic practitioner, as he just said. And if any of you are thinking she's a certified what practitioner, don't worry, you're not alone. Ayurveda is the ancient and traditional medicine that comes out of India. So it's a sister science to yoga. They're both Vedic sciences. And so they have a lot of great wisdom to share with us. But before I get started, I wanted to mention that there's a constitutional quiz that I passed out earlier. So if anyone came in late and missed it, feel free to pick it up. And if you already have your results, great, just keep them by your side to reference. And if you don't yet, don't worry, fill it out after the presentation. It'll be just as illuminating for you then. Okay. So here's where we're going. We're going to talk about what Ayurveda is and how it views hormones, what your Ayurvedic constitution is, and what you can do right now to start the process of balancing your hormones. So what does Ayurveda mean? Ayurveda is made of two parts to the word, Ayu and Veda. Ayu means life, and Veda, like many Sanskrit words, has many different translations: knowledge, truth, wisdom, or science. And so if we put these two together, we get Ayurveda, and we can think of it as the science of life. So ancient biology is how you can think of Ayurveda. So one of my favorite things about Ayurveda is its pure definition of health. Ayurveda doesn't just see health as a lack of disease. Much like functional medicine, Ayurveda views health as a positive vitality. And it actually gives us very specific terms on which that positive vitality is based. And my favorite one is the last bit of this definition. And I bring this up because I think it's very profound and really speaks to the depth of this medicine. It's that one is established in themselves. So when you are at your highest health, you are fully established in yourself. So as we go through the presentation, I just encourage you to think about what that would mean for you and what you interpret that to mean. What would it mean? How would your life look if you were fully established in yourself? Because this is the essence of what Ayurveda deems as health. So now let's talk about how Ayurveda sees physiology, because this is central to our discussion about hormones. Many, many years ago, 5,000 years ago around, when Ayurveda was born in India, we didn't obviously have the technology that we do today, and we didn't identify molecules like hormones. But what we did have was a lot of time. And we had time to deeply observe the subtleties of nature. And what the sages of Ayurveda realized was, again, very profound, that the nature external, also existed internal. So that the internal milieu was a reflection of the external milieu and vice versa. So we are a microcosm of the larger macrocosm of nature as a whole. And because of this, we have the inner workings of 5 elements within us, as there are 5 elements externally, according to Ayurveda: earth, air, fire, water, and earth, and space, ether. Okay, so Ayurveda organizes these 5 elements into 3 basic humors. So it pairs them up into forces that act in nature that usually go together. And these 3 pairs are called doshas. And they exist within us, and they also exist outside of us, in the environment. And there are 3 names for these doshas: vata, pitta, and kapha. So this visual, I think, is very helpful to keep track of everything. Vata, this spiral of air, is space and air, ether and air. That is what encompasses vata. Pitta is fire and water together. And you may think, how can those 2 be related? But don't worry too much about it right now. Kapha is water and earth. Okay, but we're going to simplify this so that it's a little more clear. So when I say vata, just think of air. And when I say pitta, just think of fire. And when I say kapha, just think of water. Okay? And I want to give credit to Banyan Botanicals, who provided me with these great images. They're an awesome resource if you want to learn more about Ayurveda, banyanbotanicals.com. Okay. So, the qualities of the doshas. So if vata is air, right, primarily air, think to yourself intuitively, what are the qualities of air? Light, mobile, dry, rough. If the wind's going on you, your skin gets dry. It doesn't feel good after a while. And it's also cold. Pitta, the qualities of fire, are hot and sharp and spreading and burning. And water qualities are damp, heavy, soft, and smooth. And these qualities are important because they're the language Ayurveda speaks in. So when Ayurveda looks at the balance of hormones, we look at these qualities in our bodies. And so these qualities can, in a way, translate into our interpretation of hormone balance. So how do these doshas, right, vata, pitta, kapha, air, fire, and water, what do they do in the body? They each have their own physiological effects. So vata, or air, can be encompassed in the peripheral and in the central nervous system. Vata is all about speed and movement and communication, and this is what our nervous system does for us. Pitta, the fire principle, encompasses all of our metabolic reactions. So everything that has to do with taking one substance and transforming it into another substance, because that's what fire does. So this happens in our physiology all the time. Every enzymatic reaction, all of our digestion, our gut microbiota, all of this is pitta, the principle of fire at work in our bodies. Same with kapha. So kapha, the substance, or water, creates the substance in our bodies and the hydration in our bodies. It's the strength of our musculoskeletal system. It nourishes us deeply. It's our organ vitality. It's our adrenal reserve. All of these things are the principle of kapha at work in our bodies. So vata, pitta, and kapha, as they exist uniquely in nature, the mountain and the ocean and the sky and the sun all have different proportions of these elements, right? So the sun's going to have far more pitta, fire. The water, the ocean, is going to have far more kapha. But each and everything in nature, just like us, has all of them, a little bit of each of these elements. So I put a snowflake on here to say that we're all unique snowflakes, because we're all very specific combinations of these 3 elements. And it's valuable for us to figure this out in order to treat disease. So I just want to pause for a second and review what we've talked about so we're sure that we're all together on the same page. Dosha is a word that is used to describe the 3 constitutions. And the 3 doshas are shorthand for the 5 elements. Vata, think air, nervous system. Pitta, think fire, metabolism. Kapha, think water, and sustenance and substance. So, I'm going to give you some examples so you can put an image to all of these concepts. This is a Vata woman. She's totally Vata. Her hair, she's thin, everything. So let's go through why she's Vata. Her physique, she's small boned, she's thinner framed, and she might be tall. We'll say she's tall, lanky. We'll guess that she has dry skin because she has so much Vata. Her demeanor is that she speaks quickly, she moves quickly, she changes her mind quickly, and her focus changes quickly, and she might be very giggly. So this is a fun person, and she's moving very fast. And she's playful, and she's creative, energetic, open-minded. She might be an artist. She has a spirit of creativity and of exploration, like a childlike spirit. This is a Vata person. And here are some more images of Vata folks that I collected. Artists, musicians, yogis, people jumping in the air, being light like Vata. Now this woman's very different. She does not have the same lighthearted air. This is a Pitta woman, the fire-dominant woman. So if one has a lot of fire in their constitution, they're going to have a different personality, and they're going to have different behavioral proclivities, different emotional tendencies. But in terms of her physique, she is more of a medium frame. She has athletic build, oily skin, lots of freckles and moles, and straighter hair. She's prone to early graying and even losing hair. And her demeanor is that she's ambitious, confident, and articulate. Her weaknesses, however, are that she's a perfectionist, maybe a workaholic, hyper-analytical, judgmental. She's critical of herself, critical of other people. She might be insensitive, definitely impatient, and prone to being serious, too much anger. She has heartburn maybe, and she also is prone to loose stools. Vata person's more prone to constipation. But her strengths are that she's brilliant, very good intellect, good problem solver, very disciplined, self-motivated, passionate, philanthropic, entrepreneur type. She's more of a risk taker, very clever, and she has strong digestion and good overall warmth and circulation. These are Pitta people, good old Obama, good old athletes running, Olympic athletes, relays, professor, playing chess, intellectuals, athletes, very competitive. This is the Pitta fire type. Fire doesn't want to just lay back and let someone go ahead of them. They want to be the first in line. Now, this is a Kapha person, and you can see how very different she looks also. Her hair is thick and voluminous and oily. She has big glossy eyes, bigger lips, a broad smile we can imagine. And her demeanor is that she's sensitive and devoted and loving. Her weaknesses, though, are that she's prone towards indulging in sweets, hoarding, holding on to stuff like weight and things and people, not exercising, not moving, inertia, withdrawing emotionally, procrastinating. There's slowness happening here. She's lazy, maybe. But her strengths are that she has so much more patience than the Pitta person. And she's grounded and she's gentle. She has good stress tolerance, good physical endurance, very generous, very, very devoted spiritually, as a parent, as a spouse, as a sister, brother. These are some Kapha people that you might know. There's Guru Amma, the hugging guru, giving lots of love. This is very motherly, very Kaphic. Hugh Jackman, very broad chest. Kapha people have very broad chests. Same with Anthony Robbins. Oprah, big, beautiful eyes, big, beautiful smile. This woman to the side here, big, glossy eyes. This is how you can visually see a Kapha person. So I promise this is all going to circle back to hormones, but right now I just want to say that you can yourself identify and say, I think I fit that profile. But you can also use your quiz to help you discover. But I want to add a word of caution with your quiz. Please make sure that you don't mistake your current state of imbalance for your constitutional nature. So in other words, as you fill out your quiz, make sure to fill it out as though you were that child that you knew many years ago, before, pre-Hashimoto's, before pre-diabetes, before your knee pain, whatever it is. So try to imagine yourself how you've known yourself for the bulk of your life and not just the more recent imbalances. And there are 3 ways that your quiz may show up. The first way is that you could be unidoshic. So this means that the bulk of your tallied scores will lie in one category. And if this is the case, then you are predominantly one dosha. And the other 2 are they show up much less in your personality and in your physique and in your physiology. But the most common way, I think, is dual doshic. So you have 2 that are higher. They might be neck and neck in your quiz, and 1 that's lower. I'm dual doshic, so is Philomena. And the very last way is that you could show up as being tridoshic. So this means that about all equal categories score similarly. And this is a lot less common, but it's co-dominant in all 3 categories. And I just want to say, there's not one category that's better than the other. Vata isn't better than Pitta. Being dual doshic isn't better than being tridoshic, isn't better than being unidoshic. Just be you and whatever you score, okay? So the answer key for the quiz that I gave you is number 1 is Vata, which is the principle of air. Number 2 is Pitta, which is the principle of fire. And number 3 is Kapha, which is the principle of water. So you might take note of that because it's not written on your quiz because I didn't want to drop any ideas into your head before you heard the presentation. Okay. All right, now let's go circling back to hormones. So the amazing thing about Ayurveda is once we know this constitution, we know that if we depart from that constitution, that is when the disease state arrives. So essentially, 5,000 years ago, Ayurveda was talking about the fact that if there was a mismatch between our constitution, or our genetic makeup, we could say, and our diet and lifestyle, or our environment, we could say, then disease arrives. So essentially, Ayurveda was touching on the epigenetic effect 5,000 years ago. And I find this very fascinating. And one thing to look out for is that whatever dosha you're most dominant in is the one that's most likely to go out of balance. So that epigenetic effect is going to hitch a ride on your dominant dosha if you're not careful with your diet and lifestyle. And returning to your constitution is the arrival of health. So departing from your constitution, we find disease. Returning to your constitution, we find health. It's pretty simple. Now, how do we talk about hormones, right, if we don't have the same language? Ayurveda uses the language of qualities of the doshas, and modern medicine uses the language of hormones. So how do we translate from one to the other? Well, we're going to talk about constellations of signs and symptoms of hormonal imbalances that are associated with each of the doshas. So there's not a direct translation that we can make. But you might notice that when I talk to you about Vata hormonal imbalances, it looks like low estrogen and high cortisol and hyperactivity of the HPA axis. When I talk to you about Kapha aggravation, so elevated Kapha beyond the constitutional levels, you might notice that it looks like high estrogen. But we can't make a direct translation because it's not true in all cases. But we can make loose associations that are very interesting. And the way that modern medicine would say treat a kapha imbalance, elevated kapha, high estrogen, also high insulin, also high blood glucose, is very similar, coincidentally, to how functional medicine would treat high insulin, high blood glucose, obesity. So it's pretty fascinating. So there's a translation here that's loose and I think very interesting. So let's talk about the elevation of vata. So here's your constitutional vata level and here's it elevated. So manifestations of vata hormonal imbalance, what could they look like? In general, it would look like anxiety, overwhelm, insomnia, tremors, overactive HPA response, so stage 1 adrenal dysfunction, hypoglycemia, mood swings, lack of confidence, so lots of fear, difficulty focusing. In males, there might be erectile dysfunction. In menstruating females, there might be primary dysmenorrhea, scanty menstrual flow, irregular menses, anovulation, lack of fertile cervical mucus, miscarriage, diminished, quote, ovarian reserve. In postmenopausal and menopausal females, we have painful intercourse. And the initiation of hot flashes starts with vata. Dry skin, vulvovaginal atrophy, vulvodynia, and urogenital syndrome. These are all vata hormonal imbalances. So if we treat vata, we treat the hormonal imbalances even though we're not calling them by name. Does that make sense? Okay. Elevation of pitta above the constitutional levels. So even if you are a pitta-dominant person, if you have aggravated pitta, if it's off the charts, which it's most likely going to be if that's constitutionally your most dominant dosha, then we have problems. Manifestation of pitta hormonal imbalance. And there's a tiger here because these animals, the bird was on the last one, this is representative of vata, and the tiger is representative of pitta. And stay tuned for the kapha animal. So the manifestations of the pitta hormonal imbalance in general will find irritability, aggressiveness, right? Think about the tiger. And this pro-inflammatory cascade, so autoimmune diseases, autoimmune thyroiditis, tired and wired from overworking, stage 2 adrenal dysfunction, night sweats. In menstruating females, we'll have pelvic inflammatory disease, menorrhagia, vaginal infection. In postmenopausal women, sweating due to hot flashes, frequent urinary tract infections, and night sweats. Okay, kapha, same thing. When kapha is elevated, lots of problems happen in the hormonal world. Type 2, diabetes mellitus. Exhaustion, stage 3 adrenal dysfunction. Increased visceral adiposity, right? Think about the qualities of kapha: heavy, slow, static, there's inertia, there's dampness. All of this is translating into hormonal imbalances that we see here. Insulin resistance, depression, metabolic syndrome, obesity and overweight, hypothyroid. Hypothyroid is to the T a kapha problem. Stagnation, poor circulation, being cold in your extremities. Foggy brain, can't quite think through that fog. In menstruating women, endometriosis, although really endometriosis is totally a tri-doshic disorder. It involves vata, pitta, and kapha to happen. Fibroids, for sure, a kaphic problem. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, yeast infections, menstrual blood clots and mucus, leukorrhea, and males' symptoms of low testosterone, like lack of motivation, depression, low self-confidence, and higher estrogen. And the animal there was the elephant, which is quite a noble and amazing and very emotional animal, and this is kapha's animal. Okay, so I went through all of that, but I want to mention that even though we have the end symptom, that could be very clearly related to one dosha, it doesn't mean that the cause of that symptom is related to the same dosha. So an example is that if you have had chronic unrelenting stress, say you're a Vata person, you're already prone to stress, and you have more chronic unrelenting stress, chronic unrelenting stress, through your whole life, well, pretty soon your adrenal function is going to start to go down, right? Your cortisol curve is going to flatten, right? So at the end of that pathology, we have a kaphic symptom of lethargy. Can't quite get up in the morning, need 4 cups of coffee to get going, can't do anything until after 10 a.m. This is a kapha problem, but it came from a Vata problem originally. So this is the root cause, is Vatagenic in nature. And Pitta mediated the problem by the pro-inflammatory cascade that was caused from this dysfunctional cortisol response. And we end up with a kapha problem at the end of the line. So it's important to trace it back and look at the root cause and treat both. And a lot of times Vata is at the root, because it's the mover and the shaker. So I love this guy because he's not just, boom, done, fixed. He's on a journey. He starts pretty crummy with a bunch of dark clouds and ends up in the sun with a little bird floating by. So just to remind us that it's a healing journey. So I want to give you practical tools that you can take home tonight and use, or tomorrow morning and use. And no matter what dosha is vitiated for you, these will be safe. So it's not a risk if you get the wrong dosha or you're treating, the wrong dosha. Just trust your intuition, listen to your body, see what feels good, and try an experiment. So if you think that you are Vata vitiated, that Vata is higher for you than what is constitutionally correct, then there is one recommendation that I have that is very simple, but very pivotal and very challenging. And that is to go to bed, and it's not going to happen for any of us tonight, go to bed by 10 p.m. and regularly, and rest, and wake up at the same time every day. Vata is mobile, and it needs structure, and it needs regularity, because it is so changeable. So opposites balance each other. So if we want to balance Vata, we need to do something that opposes it, like sleep on a regular basis. If we stay up past 10, there's too much lightness that happens, and lightness is a quality of Vata. I'm almost done. And then the next is Pitta. If you think Pitta is vitiated for you beyond your constitutional levels, I would suggest that you start including some cooling foods. You have a lot of excess heat in your body and possibly excess inflammation. So cooling foods would be like coconut water, cilantro, mint, bitters. Bitter foods are balancing to Pitta, so lots of leafy bitter greens. White fish is cooling, cucumber. Add these things to your water, just start incorporating them, yeah? And most importantly, really avoid those foods that are gonna aggravate your heat further. So spicy foods, oily foods. Remember I said Pitta was fire and water? Well, the water part of Pitta is more of that oily part. And too much oil aggravates Pitta. If you throw oil on a fire, what happens? Whew. So we want to avoid the oil, avoid the excess spice, take out the fried food. I love this picture of the elephants. And they're moving, and that is the key for kapha. Mix it up. Kapha is stagnant and static. And so the best thing you can do for kapha is move, and not just move, but move during the kapha time of day. And the kapha time of day is from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., when most people feel the worst. And if you feel sluggish at that time, move. Time to move. And when you move first thing in the morning, it's much more easy for you to keep that habit anyway. And you will start your day with much more brightness, okay? So I suggest at least 15 minutes if you can do any movement, like Philomena was saying, any movement that makes you happy. But if you're really kapha aggravated, get your heart rate up. Do some strength training. It'll improve your insulin resistance. So, to conclude, I just want to bring us back to this thought of what it means to be established in oneself, according to Ayurveda. And to me, it means bio-psycho-spiritual alignment and inner harmony and peace with myself, with my relationship with myself. And I don't know about you, but I have that a lot easier when I take care of myself and when I work every day to balance my hormones and honor my body and honor my mind. And listen, right? Listen to the messages of my body, and not violently, but with love. And sit established in myself. That is the goal of health. I mean, I think. I don't know about you. But I just want to leave you with that thought and maybe that aim for your life. Are you established in yourself, and what does that mean for you? That's it. Thank you. And I can take questions, I believe, for like very few minutes.
Yes.
You really hit Vata on the nail on the head for me with sleep. And that's my hardest thing in my life. And so I can go to sleep fairly quickly, 4 hours. And then I'm usually awake for an hour, and I can go back to sleep, especially if I take Rescue Remedy, for 2 hours. So I count myself lucky with 6. But I'm always tired, and I know I need 8, but I just can't seem to get there. Do you have any suggestions?
I do. And this makes me think of your comment earlier about having pre-Hashimoto's and the role of Vata in your stress response. If your stress response is very high, we know that your cortisol will inhibit your thyroid-stimulating hormone, and it will also inhibit the conversion of active thyroid hormone, of inactive thyroid hormone to active thyroid hormone. So you're not getting as much T3 production. So I'm wondering how that's all tied in for you, and that stress response and that aggravated Vata. So I would guess that Vata is vitiated for you, and that the more rhythm you can try to create around your sleep schedule, in other words, your wind down time, and keep a regular time to wake up, even if you can't sleep well through the night, try to just keep regularity in there and reduce that stress, and see if creating a rhythm around your sleep will help you sleep better. Sometimes that's all it takes. Other times it's more involved.
I just want to add to that also, because I see a lot of people with that type of problem. Your adrenal function is very important too. So what you want to exactly, just piggybacking on what Megan says, make sure that what you're, getting in bed by 9:30 or 10, critical, but also what you do before you get in bed. Do not be on these things or any bright light coming into even a TV. If you want to read just an ambient light, a book, but no screen with bright light coming into your eyes, because you're suppressing your melatonin production by your pineal gland. And when you suppress the melatonin, you also suppress growth hormone output at night, which is your major recuperative restorative hormone. So again, no screen within an hour or less of before going to bed. Also, make sure if you have like a chamomile herbal tea, have a calming, something that calms you before going to bed. Nothing stimulatory. And there was one other point I can't think of right now. But anyway, yeah, really important to make sure that you wind down before you go to sleep and have it really relaxing. Oh, yeah, the important thing. Make sure you don't have any, sleep in as dark a room as you can get it, or use a mask so that you really get a big melatonin when you go to sleep, and it stays up there, okay? It's really important.
Yeah, I call the before bed time the wind down time, and I try to get my clients to go for at least an hour beforehand. The time for lotions and potions. Take a bath, put on lavender essential oil, light a candle, play soothing music, nothing stimulatory. Just all to just unravel that response that's been going all day. Yeah.
And something also I find very helpful that, unlike exogenous melatonin, L-theanine is a simple amino acid, 200 milligrams. You can usually get it in 200 milligrams, right before bed. It not only helps you get to sleep, but helps you stay asleep too. L is theanine, Theanine, 200 milligrams. It's a simple amino acid. You can get it. Just make sure you can get it pretty much anywhere, Whole Foods or whatever. Just make sure you don't get anything added to it. Just L-theanine. Yeah.
Any other questions real quick?
Okay. I think that's it then. So anyway,
Sleep
thank you.
well.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you all for attending.